Hello, I'm Azortharion, and today I'm giving some initial thoughts on the brand new 9.1 Hunter Covenant legendaries that have just been put up on the PTR. So, as far as I know, these legendaries will be specific to any Covenant, and all of their effects are basically cross-spec, meaning that, for example, despite this one including Explosive Shot, it can be used by any spec. Because they don't interact with class mechanics, they only interact with the Covenant ability that you're dealing with. So the first one is the Night Fae Hunter Covenant specific legendary, Fragments of the Elder Antlers. When Wild Spirits hits fewer than 5 targets, there's a 200%, although don't put too much stock in that number because it's a bit weird, chance for each target to hit to be damaged by Wild Spirits a second time. So this is basically the band-aid that they are giving us for the Marksmanship Hunter Wild Spirits interaction nerf that they made a few months ago, I think by now. So basically before, if you had the Serpent Sting Marksmanship Hunter Legendary, whenever you would aim shot into Wild Spirits, it would basically proc Wild Spirits twice. They nerfed that, and it meant that Wild Spirits basically got a 20 to 30% overall damage nerf, which was really painful. But everyone kind of liked that interaction, mostly because it made us really OP, but you know, this is their replacement for that. So, and it also has the additional benefit of it buffs the single target damage of Wild Spirits relative to the AoE, because the AoE was what was really OP before. What still is quite OP about Wild Spirits is how much AoE burst you can get off over 18 seconds when using it. So the idea behind this is, so when you're hitting fewer than 5 targets, so any 1 to 4 target situation, it's gonna proc more often to compensate for you hitting fewer targets. But there is a major problem with this, which is what this number will actually be. Because right now it's 200%, which might as well be 100%. So on 4 targets, if you Wild Spirits, it's gonna hit all of them twice. So that would be like having Wild Spirits on 8 targets, essentially. And it means that Wild Spirits is gonna do way more damage on 4 targets than it's gonna do on 5 targets, which makes no sense at all. Like, are we gonna be screaming at tanks to please move, just one target out of the Wild Spirits, but like not all of them, but just one of them, because then my Wild Spirits, there's no way this is gonna go live as it is. It's just a bit funny that this is like the placeholder so far. Next one is the Kyrian patch 9.1 Covenant specific legendary for Hunters, which is Pact of the Soulstalkers. When your resonating arrow deals damage to a target, your party gains 5% increased critical strike chance for until cancelled. So there's 2. So one thing to note is whenever a tooltip says party, it means the 5-man group inside your raid. So it's not going to buff your whole raid, it's going to buff your party, or if you're in a Mythic Plus group, it's going to buff everyone in the party. Interestingly, there's this like sub buff which has 10%, so even this is a bit of a placeholder number. Maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 10%. Obviously, what this number ends up being will have a huge impact on the viability of this. First impression on how good it is, not really sure. 5%, not really that much. It's gonna depend on who you're in a party with. In Mythic Plus, this seems pretty garbage, because a lot of that crit is gonna go to healing and tanking, and they do deserve that crit. Like, no hate on healers or tanks or anything, but generally speaking, if there's anything you want to increase in your group in general, it's gonna be DPS. So yeah, not sure about this one. And then also we don't know how long it's gonna last. My guess would be that it lasts as long as Resonating Arrow does, but I really don't know. And also, I mean, this one, you're buffing others more than you're buffing yourself, which, I mean, just look at Power Infusion. No one really likes that mechanic. Certainly priests don't like that mechanic. So this one is the biggest disappointment of all. But that leads straight into the biggest, I guess, positive of all, which is the Necrolord patch 9.1 Hunter Covenant specific legendary. Bag of Munitions. Death Chakram now also applies Explosive Shot to every target it hits. So that will be up to 5 targets. An Explosive Shot for you BM and Survival Hunters out there is this marksmanship talent that you put on a target. After 3 seconds, it blows up for 190% AP fire damage on up to 6 enemies within 8 yards. So not only is this a huge amount of damage, this is basically the equivalent of an aim shot or higher. So once again, I'm using marksmanship terminology because most of you are marksmanship hunters, let's be honest. fire damage, so it's not gonna get reduced by armor. Basically, this is a truckload of damage, and it deals damage to up to 6 enemies. And you're multiplying that 6 target AoE by up to 5, because that's how many targets Death Chakram can hit. So this is basically just like blow everything up, do insane amounts of AoE damage legendary. Which is, I mean, just very simple, and it's very, very, very powerful. Yeah, just straight up, it's just insanely powerful. It's also gonna be decent single target, but of course, like Mythic Plus, opening on a pack with this, you better have Misdirection active, because holy crap, this is a crap ton of damage. So what you should also know is, on the guides, on the Icy-Veins Hunter guides, I've made a, sort of a 9.1 page. Let's see if I can find it. Patch 9.1 analysis. And here I'm listing all the new soulbinds that are relevant for DPS. And soon I'm also, when this page updates, I'm gonna update with all these legendary changes. And this is basically just your one-stop shop for checking up on like patch 9.1 Hunter changes and like some brief thoughts on them. So we can here talk about, so what are the most interesting of these new soulbind abilities? What could change the viability? What could change the meta? All that stuff. And soon you'll see all this stuff that I've talked about here under the legendary changes. And yeah, so this is a video partly to show you this, partly to introduce you to these new legendaries. Of course, we're missing the Venthyr Covenant-specific legendary. And as soon as that comes up, maybe I'll make a video about it. But if not, then I'll certainly add it to the list here. So yeah, be sure to check out the Icy-Veins patch 9.1 analysis pages for hunters. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope to be making more of these videos for patch 9.1. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.